So if you're just jumping on to say hi, welcome to this eclipse. It's going to be intense, really intense. Okay, yeah, that's not, there we go. Okay. We are live. So welcome, you guys. Like I said, if you're just jumping onto the live stream, say hi. If you're watching after, say hi too. Let us know how your Scorpio season went. And with the last full moon in Taurus, let us know how it went. Let us know how you're doing through these changes. So, today we're talking about the solar eclipse in Sagittarius happening December 4th. And this will be happening at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. This is going to be a wild ride, you guys. This is going to be ideas becoming realized, really realizing our potential, becoming more than we were yesterday. That's really what Sagittarius is about. Sagittarius is about expansion, really expanding our horizons. So, this is why when people have strong Sagittarius placements, we see in them this desire for more, this quest. They can be seekers, they can be travelers, or if they're not travelers, they're going to be into philosophy and really understanding the deeper meaning of life. And so, like all new moons, this is going to impact us wherever we have Sagittarius in our chart. And the people who are going to feel this more strongly are going to be the mutable signs. And because it's happening at the 12 degree of Sagittarius, we're going to see people with the degrees between 9 and 15 of Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, or Pisces. Those are going to be the people who are going to be hit hardest by this energy. Now, there is a lot of potential, but it is a wild ride. And when I was tuning into the energy, I just kept thinking about like when you buy a new pair of shoes and you think the shoes are going to feel a certain way, but no matter how many times you walk around the store, you don't really know what those shoes are going to feel like until you get them out of the store and you're doing something else. And I also thought of like getting on a roller coaster where you can imagine what it's like to be on a roller coaster. But if you've never gone on a roller coaster, there's nothing that is going to really prepare you for the moment when that roller coaster is at the top and then to the bottom. So it's experiences that I feel like we're going to be kind of thrust into with this celestial event happening. So it is happening at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. And I also feel this is going to put our emphasis on communication and expression because we do have Mercury in aspect. So let's get into the more details here. First, we have the Sabian symbol. So Sabian symbols are, each degree has a Sabian symbol, which kind of represents what that degree means. There's more than one system that looks at this. There's also inside degrees, but I'm going to read you guys the Sabian symbol, which for this one is a flag turns into an eagle, the eagle into a chanticleer saluting the dawn. So a chanticleer is an orchestra of voices. So this is like where a symbol, something that we believe in that maybe hasn't become realized, becomes realized. And that realization, that actualization, the happening of the thing, maybe we're ready for it, maybe we're not. Maybe it's what we thought it would be, probably not exactly. And so it's like when our manifestation, we have the visualization of what we think it's going to be like when we have all this money, or we have all this love, or we have all this success or ease, or whatever it is that you try to manifest. But then the experience of having the actual thing, it's always going to be different than we project, than our projection. And so this is one of the interesting parts of life, is that we can get what we think we wanted and be totally unhappy. Let me know if you've ever had that happen. I know I have. So, what this Sabian symbol is saying to me is that we could have a first impression of something that turns into an actual experience, again, which is more than we thought it would be. And so, that first impression can be like meeting your mentor, and then they're as wonderful as you thought they were, or more wonderful, or not as wonderful, just depending on the case. Or something where you always had your sights set on a certain kind of car. You've always wanted a Tesla, and then you get a Tesla, and you realize having a Tesla is a lot different than what you thought having a Tesla would be like. Now, again, it can go positive or negative, just depending on what our first impression was. So this is also a time to put our visions into action. It's not enough just to contemplate the flag. It's not enough just to meditate on the symbol of the vision that we want. It's not enough just to visualize it and see it as possible. This is the time to expand our comfort zone by somehow moving toward our manifestations in a way that makes sense to us, that puts us a little bit outside of the comfort zone. Again, it's about jumping into the pool. It's not about studying the right way to dive, okay? It's jumping into the pool. So, let me see here. Yeah, so we need to step into our freedom too, because flags, a flag and an eagle, these are both very symbolic for freedom. So it's about um, our authenticity, our sovereign, being sovereign, being able to choose what we want to do and go do it. And if we don't have the means, creating the means. So, potential manifestations, again, meeting your mentor and loving or hating them, part of your vision becomes a reality and you love it or hate it. And it is, again, like having that new pair of shoes. With Sagittarius, there's a whoa factor. There's an expansion of the mind. That is what Sagittarius lives for, is that those mind expanding moments where someone says something and you're just like, whoa, that's Sagittarius. And that is like the best way to describe Sagittarius energy. But again, it can be, whoa, this is a crazy roller coaster. I don't like this. Or it can be, whoa, this is the coolest thing I've ever had. It probably isn't really going to be in between. Either our whoa experience is going to be like, whoa, this isn't what I thought. I don't like it, especially if we are clinging to the need to control. If we are feeling like we are only going to allow our manifestation if it comes in this form, this would be a time where anyone who has like serious control issues might have a harder time accepting the manifestation coming in the different form. Um, so again, if you're rigid, you might find that if someone is super controlling, even the best experience will disappoint them because they wanted to be the one to decide it was going to happen. So watch out for those tendencies within yourself at this time. And then in the world, we can also see people rising up. If you think about the flag turns into an eagle, the eagle into a chanticleer saluting the dawn. This is like an uprising of voices. So that being said, the inside degree on this is icicles melting, elaborate maneuvers towards significant breakthrough. And the interesting thing about that inside degree versus the aspect to Uranus is that with Uranus, we would expect it to be sudden, whereas with icicles melting, this is a process that it sounds slow and gradual. Although when icicles melt, I'm just imagining like the polar ice caps melting. And while it is a slow, gradual process of ice melting, I think of like an avalanche where, yeah, the ice melts slowly, but eventually something has to give. And that's when the avalanche happens. So I feel like this eclipse is going to create that avalanche, and it doesn't have to be negative, especially if your life has mirrored a flag or an icicle melting. So think about whatever in your life represents the symbol of what you've been working to manifest, or whatever represents a symbol of the icicle you have been trying to melt. So anything that you have slowly been trying to work out over time, especially if it represents something that you have been wearing down, like wearing down to your subconscious beliefs, down to a deeper core, or like whittling it down clarity wise, where first you had this general idea of what you wanted to do, and then you've been sort of refining that and whittling it down into a point. Anything in your life that mirrors that energy. So this could be like getting clear on your offer, getting clear on your purpose. It could be within relationships, perhaps, if you have been weeding people out, or if you have been like getting down to the core of what you really want in relationships, single or coupled. So it can apply to that as well. So let's now move on to the aspects. So the first really, really strong aspect here is going to be that quincunx to Uranus, because it is exact. So that exact quincunx to Uranus is going to be the thing that really, really is infused into this eclipse. And so Uranus is unpredictable. Eclipses are unpredictable. This is very unstable energy. Uranus will shake things up. Right. So I'm thinking about the last time Saturn and Uranus were square, actually, the first time this year, when the power grid went out in Texas, right? Because Uranus is energy, Saturn is structure. So that's an example of a Uranian type thing. So when we have Uranus in a quincunx, it's also awkward because the quincunx aspect is an awkward, tense aspect where the two energies don't really see eye to eye. So we might find at this time that there's a part of us that wants to move forward and expand, but there's another part of us that's like, I don't know if I'm ready to change that. Or we could have it go where it's a little too much of the impulsive energy, because Sagittarius is very impulsive. They will put their foots in their mouths. I'm a Sagittarius, and they will just go do something and think later. Same with Aries, but with Sagittarius, it's more like doing it for fun, or just like, again, impulsiveness is part of this of fire signs. Fire signs want to move, they want to do things. And so with Uranus and Sagittarius, this can be an excess of impulsivity. So this is a time you can jump if you have a parachute. And if you don't have a parachute, um, and you're trying to jump without a parachute right now, you might want to consider what you're going to land on. So I can't say don't make decisions or don't try to take risks, but just make sure with this energy that that risk is a risk that kind of makes sense, because you just don't know. It's like roulette. Are you going to be okay if you get all your money taken away? If not, especially with the eclipse and right after, this wouldn't be a time to take those crazy kind of risks. But basically, this is awkward change. This is like new shoes that don't fit well, but you got to break them in to see if they're still going to be weird. So the question here, though, is like, are those new shoes really weird, or have you been wearing the boots you had for like 20 years? And so this is where um, our comfort zone is not going to help us. Our comfort zone could actually get in the way of our ability to see what's actually going on, and like um how good things really are. So I keep feeling like we don't know what's best for us at this time. I keep feeling that as I'm talking. And so if something crazy changes, or something unstable happens, try to roll with the punches a little, but also you might not be the best judge of whether this is good or bad at this moment. We might be more inclined to judge something negatively just because it's unfamiliar. So if you get those new shoes, make sure you can break them in before you decide whether they are good for you or not. There may be some sudden changes that we just don't expect that come out of left field that aren't really what we had in mind. So don't write things off at this time if they are just not what you had in mind. So the next aspect we have is Mercury is conjunct here at 15 degrees of Sag. So that's within 3 degrees. So again, we're going to have an emphasis on communication here. Now, this is going to affect you differently based on what house this is happening in your chart. So we can see ourselves reworking things. We can see ourselves in situations where we have to communicate or do marketing, or even other Mercury type things like shipping and receiving. Any kind of messaging, right? So emails, letters, anything in writing, anything in speaking, anything that comes over the airwaves in any way can be affected here. And so this is just going to be all about communication. And so it's the need for clear communication right now, because with Mercury and Sag, this isn't exactly the best placement. Mercury and Sag is a little rambly, okay? And so it'll go on and on and on about the meaning of life when really the person, do you guys know the phrase, you ask someone for the time, they build you a clock? This is Mercury and Sagittarius. They will tell you everything but what you asked. And so we may just have to work a little harder, because this can be us, or it can be someone else in our lives, or it can be things that are happening in our lives. So we may have more situations where we have to get someone else to get to the point, or we have to work just a little harder to get the real information. Because another thing about Sagittarius is that it will, like, this energy Mercury there, it blows things a little bit out of proportion, or makes something seem like the best thing ever when it's just regular. So it's great for salespeople, but for everything else, it's like we have to make sure that if someone is making promises to us at this time that something is the best thing ever, we have to make sure that we are really seeing it for what it is and not taking what they're promising at face value, especially if it seems too good to be true. So let's move on now to Jupiter. Jupiter rules this eclipse because the eclipse is in Sagittarius and Jupiter is at 25 degrees of Aquarius. It will be going into Pisces at the end of December. And as a planet moves through the signs, toward the end of the sign, it gets stronger. And so this really puts a lot of emphasis with this eclipse on innovation, communication, learning, even streamlining things because, Jupiter and Sag, it's all about learning, expanding the mind, up leveling our skills, doing things that are fun, traveling if we can, and just really embracing more of a sense of like happiness of being alive. And so with Jupiter and Aquarius, this really puts more emphasis on new approaches, big ideas, huge insights. Einstein had Jupiter and Aquarius. So this can be a time where we get big downloads, we get sudden ideas that are just brilliant. And there might be a need, again, for sweeping changes and a total overhaul of whatever was washed away by that moon in Scorpio, new moon in Scorpio, if you were one of those people who got hit by that. Now let's move on to Mars squaring Jupiter. So this adds an element of force or being provoked into the mix because Mars is like a little bit, a little bit edgy. Mars is a little bit pushy, fierce. And so that square brings tension here between our desire to transform, our desire to get to the bottom of things. So this can be that we learn something, we do more deep inner work that helps us to find new solutions. That's really probably the best way this is going to show up. So if you are looking for solutions to a problem, if you're trying to get clarity on something, if you want to know your next steps, use that Mars and Scorpio by going to the bottom of it. And it's almost like we might feel more on edge or more unsettled if we don't know exactly what's going on or exactly why certain things are happening, because that's what happens with Scorpio energy. With Scorpio energy, it is not satisfied if it does not know why. Why are you lying to me? Why am I not getting the full story? Why did this person say this in this tone of voice? Scorpio knows these things, picks up on this subtle energy, and if it can't totally figure out what the deeper reason is, it will keep digging. So, this Mars squaring Jupiter can be we want to dig and find the truth about something. It can be someone else trying to get dirt on us or find the truth out about us. Remember, these can be energies within us or represent things or people or events happening in our lives. So, Mars squaring Jupiter, the positive side of this aspect is that when we take action, there's a potential to expand, but it's not going to be easy because it's a square, so it's tension. It's like, "Ugh, I have to go do this now." That's the feeling. But when we just embrace that and we still go do it, we might have to do it. We might have to shovel snow. We might have to push hard. We might have to just get in there and get our hands dirty in some way. But that the results and the rewards of getting to the bottom of that thing or handling that project or tackling that challenge to efficiency or evolution in some way, that's going to yield results. So if you have opportunities, they probably won't feel like opportunities to really get in, dig in deep in some way, whether that's researching, whether that's figuring out what's really going on with something or someone. Whether that is figuring out what's going on with you, like getting deep to the roots of something. This is a time where that action can benefit. With Jupiter in the mix here, it can actually help you become more efficient overall. It's like, I think of just like cleaning your room and you might get all the crap onto the bed and then now it's a huge mess. But eventually you're going to have a better experience. Or, like also a good time to like clean out all your old emails, stuff like that, where it's just clutter getting in the way. So moving on now to having Black Moon Lilith in Gemini opposite Mercury, and I don't think I showed her on here. Let me change that really quick so you guys can see on the chart really quick. Okay, so now we have Black Moon Lilith here joining us. And I have to find. Okay. Okay, so now we can see her up here at 15 degrees of Gemini, exactly opposed our Mercury for this eclipse. And so having Black Moon Lilith involved with Mercury, this is, remember Lilith got kicked out of the Garden of Eden because she wanted the same rights Adam had, basically. You can watch my Lilith videos for a little bit more on her. But she represents where people will repress us, where other people will see what we're doing and say, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that. Well, having Lilith opposite Mercury can mean that on an internal level, we could feel this on ourselves. We could be putting this on ourselves where we're like, I really want to speak my truth, but I can't because people aren't going to like it. Where we feel this opposition, because an opposition is like a seesaw where maybe we do it and then we do the other thing. So for one person, this could be just like being honest on your social media and then realizing everyone hates that. And then you decide to go like, okay, I'm going to stop. And then, okay, wait, no, I'm not. And going back and forth between these energies of like provoking people with your words. Lilith and Gemini, it's like you could not always tell, how do I put it? People could accuse you of lying when you're not. There can be issues with truth. Okay. So this can be people accusing you of not speaking the truth, people accusing other people of not speaking the truth. This could be a time where lies are unearthed. Like in the public eye, we see people have been lying and we find out about it. And then within ourselves, it's like, that Sagittarius energy of just like, I just want to tell people all the things I know and all my opinions and how much the meaning of life is versus this Gemini energy of, no, let's straight go to the facts. This person only needs this information. So censorship comes up strong here when we have this opposition because it's like, you might know more than you can reveal because and there's times where like in general censorship is okay, right? Like we don't tell kids everything about life when they're 3 years old because that wouldn't be appropriate. There's certain things they're not mentally ready to handle. So sometimes not telling someone the whole truth is an act of self-preservation, like because we know they are not mature enough to handle it in whatever capacity we're talking about. There's certain people who we go to for certain things because we know, like if you have a very strong political opinion, you probably don't go to your friend with the opposing opinion to talk it through. Hey, Bree. Um, so Lilith opposing Mercury can bring out truth versus lies, where we are being censored, where people are trying to get us to stop talking because they don't like something we've said, things like this. So some people can be being attacked for what they're saying, especially if it's very opinionated. Fact checking in general could show up here with this energy. So moving on now to some of the smaller aspects. The not as strong aspects. So we have Venus sextiling Mars. Venus sextile Mars is a good aspect. It's a positive aspect, but we have to put energy into it to make it work for us. So the way this shows up, because Venus is in Capricorn right now and Mars is in Scorpio, we may need to sacrifice to move forward, but we can do it. And so there may be some kind of goal or ambition, something we want to achieve right now that we realize, oh, in order to achieve this, I need to stop doing these other things. So this is like when I mean, the best example I can think of is like when you have a business and you realize, in order to make this business happen, I have to cut my expenses by $500. And so then you go cut your expenses by $500, or you go make $500 through some other job and you make that sacrifice, even though that's not what you want to do, because you know it's going to get you where you want to be. And that Venus and Capricorn is all about, am I going places? And so if you're feeling like you're not going places and you realize you need to cut things, because Venus is in Capricorn, it feels like cutting things. It feels like restricting things for a budget or restricting things that you would enjoy normally. It feels like stopping doing something you love temporarily for long-term gain or something that makes you feel comfortable. Maybe you like shopping and you just can't shop for a couple months and then you get to go shopping again or whatever it is. But we're gonna know what that is, and the energy of getting to the bottom of what needs to be sacrificed or what needs to be given up is actually highlighted. So the next thing here is Mars sextiling Pluto. So this is actually why we can do what we want to do. We have these reserves of power with Mars and Pluto. Mars and Pluto is like power. It's lots of energy below the surface, but because it's a sextile, we don't just get it. We have to work for it. So Mars and Scorpio, the way to use this energy during this eclipse, maybe not leading up to the eclipse, but during or after the eclipse is a really good time to take actions that are for our passion. I've been talking about this the whole time Mars has been in Scorpio, and that is what Mars and Scorpio can teach us is hell yes or no. Either it's a hell yes or it's a no. And any activities to figure that out, to work on what you enjoy, to tap into what you desire, to cut out the things you don't desire or the things that are holding you back, truly holding you back from what you really, really want. While Mars continues to transit Scorpio, which isn't very much longer, we have more ability to do those things. And with Mars sextiling Pluto and Venus, this is more power, more energy around it. There is a little bit of a challenge here with Venus coming into this conjunction with Pluto. It's not exact yet at the time of this eclipse. It will be later on this month, but Venus Pluto isn't a super easy, fun little thing to go through. This is like stalker energy. This is like obsession. Okay. Because Pluto is like power and Venus is how we love. And so this can bring in relationships with power struggles. This can be, people, it could, for some people, okay, this isn't going to be everyone, but for some people, this can be people trying to take you down, people who are supposed to love you, turning on you, especially with this Black Moon Lilith opposite Mercury. You could find out some people are talking about you behind your back. Again, this is not going to apply to everybody. These are just potential manifestations. Bree says, my Mars is exact with my Neptune in the third house. Ooh. Very interesting. Interesting, because Neptune is like nebulous and hard to take action. So I bet that's interesting for you when it comes to getting things done. So yeah, Mars Pluto power struggles, Venus Pluto power struggles in relationships, stalker energy. We need to make sure we're not being the stalker and like obsessing over things that we're not taking action on. If you're obsessed with something in a good way, just let that, channel that energy into like fueling your obsession in a positive way, like obsessed with your success kind of a thing. That's probably the highest possibility here. Venus Pluto aspects can make us vulnerable. They can actually, we can have like in relationships where the person sort of reveals our unconscious desires and we don't feel like we can like put up any walls against it. Now, that's not going to apply to everyone. I see that happening more later on in the month, but I didn't want to skip over that. So now let's go on to Saturn sextiling Chiron. This is another minor aspect for the solar eclipse. And again, the sextiles are going to be things we have to work to get that energy. So this allows us to restructure in a way that supports our highest good, to kind of restructure in a way that heals us. So ways that could look is perhaps with our schedule, we realize we really need more time in our morning routine. And so we carve that out. That would be an example of Saturn sextiling Chiron in a positive way. This could also be, Saturn sometimes can be people in our lives that represent someone who is in authority over us. So we could have authority figures trying to help us heal or somehow doing things that make us feel healed in some way. So this could be something as simple as your boss recognizes you or your father gives you a compliment or you have an opportunity to have a healing conversation with your father or someone else in your life who is like a father figure or represents that authority. We could also find at this time, it's a really good time to try to heal our own definition, our own self-perception of our own authority. And so this would be more like the inner work. This to me would come after the eclipse, not during the same time. Because again, I'm probably going to say this over and over, but manifesting during eclipses is volatile and unstable and unpredictable. So if you want what you want at all costs and you don't care if something bad happens to you or someone else, you can do it, but it's not advised. So, yeah, back to Saturn sextiling Chiron. Again, this is an aspect. It's not a huge part of this solar eclipse because it's a sextile, and neither one of these are making aspect to the sun or the moon, but there's still that ability, there's still that silver lining. So let me see. I'm going to try to go over the overall energy here. I'm not going to break down the rising sign this time. I don't think I'm going to be doing those anymore. I think I'm just going to be doing the collective reports. And before we do the recap, you guys, I want you to know I have some really awesome things happening that I want you to know about. One, if you're not on my email list, I have a new free guide called Align with Your Midheaven. It helps you to figure out how to take aligned action with your midheaven, so check that out. I'm also doing one-on-one coaching for taking aligned action toward your purpose. You can check out my website if you want to know more. You can schedule a call with me. And those are the big things. So check those things out. And going back to our recap here, because it's in Sagittarius, you guys, this is ideas being realized, becoming more than we were. And the emphasis here is on communication and expression. So things in life that we thought were going to be a certain way, they're not going to be that same way. And this is a time where we're going to experience the things that have been on our vision board, the things we've tried to manifest, or have opportunities to jump into things that maybe we never even thought about before. There's a feeling of the difference between the symbol and the actual experience of the thing. The difference between looking at your work schedule on paper and seeing that you start at 5 a.m. versus waking up at 4:40 a.m. with your clothes on already because you hate mornings and your work is like 10 minutes away. So it's really the difference between what we think it's going to be, what it's supposed to be in our minds versus the actual experience. And it's a time where we can have breakthroughs. It's a time where people might not like what we're saying, or people might not like what other people are saying. It's a time where we can expand, we can grow, we can learn, we can have big ideas and huge insights. It's a time when we can take action to further our goals. And I feel like this eclipse will, for some of us, it's going to just like lift us up, and we'll be able to sort of have a little bit more energy underneath our manifestations. And so I think we're going to stop there for this live broadcast. And I also have lots of videos coming out for Life Purpose, so stay tuned for those. A lot of those I set already as a premiere, so you guys can go now and set your alarms to watch those if you'd like to. And feel free to book a private reading with me as well. So I also do one-on-one astrology readings where we can talk about how to align with your vision, whether your goals are in alignment with your chart, how to align your action, whether you're on the right path, and how to use astrology to step into your purpose, and all kinds of other wonderful things. We go pretty deep in the one-on-ones. So you can click the link below to book with me for that, and I will see you